Good morning, everyone. It's Monday, October 26th. From the San Antonio Express News, my name is Luis Vasquez, and this is your Express Briefing. All of the stories you need to know to start your day. You can expect partly cloudy skies and a high of 84 degrees in San Antonio today. We're watching a cold front that should drop temperatures to the 60s and 50s this week. The front also brings increased rain chances to the area. A surge in lab-confirmed COVID-19 hospitalizations in far west Texas has prompted state health officials to convert a convention center in El Paso into a makeshift hospital to ease the crush of patients in the state's sixth largest city. In Bexar County, the final week of early voting is likely to generate long lines and wait times, even with extended night hours and new digital tools to help people cast their ballots. And now let's move on to the top stories for the day. There are more than 250,000 disabled residents in Bexar County older than 18, accounting for about 17% of the area's eligible voters. Many of those have an ambulatory difficulty. With the increase in safety regulations concerning the coronavirus pandemic and other changes in the process, accessibility is easier, advocates say. Not everybody has it easier, though. Jane Pachon, who uses a wheelchair, found the second machine that takes in the ballot printed out after voting was too high. You can read more about a variety of voting experiences, including curbside voting and voting by mail, in Liz Hardaway's latest story. For 12 years, Marine Major Douglas Burian was a happy customer. He particularly liked USAA Bank's easy-to-use mobile banking app. On August 7, 2019, he opened his banking app to discover that $10,000 was missing from his savings account. Burian discovered the theft as he drove home on August 7th at 4:30 p.m. in stop-and-go DC area traffic. Still behind the wheel, he called USAA Bank to report the fraud. The first bank rep he spoke to said more or less what he wanted to hear: "Let's get this taken care of." That was Burian's last good experience with USAA Bank. Greg Jefferson tells the story of what happened since that day. Nathan Smith traded his Air Force uniform and work in a classified intelligence vault for blue jeans and a heavy equipment repair truck. He left the service in February, shortly before the pandemic spawned mass business closures and record-breaking job losses. He dodged the unemployment lines and landed a job at Holtcat, the San Antonio-based Caterpillar heavy equipment dealer. But thousands of other Military City USA veterans haven't been as lucky. Roughly 16,900 veterans in the San Antonio area have filed for unemployment since March, accounting for 13% of the region's claims. Yet, the unemployment rate for Texas veterans is just 4.5%, below the San Antonio area's overall jobless rate of 8.1%. Brandon Lingo explores why in this collaboration with Report for America. Back at Iwo Jima's Red Beach 75 years ago, Marine Private First Class T. Fred Harvey was enveloped by the cacophony of war, exploding artillery, mortars, grenades, and small arms fire that came from all directions. "Fear is what saved me," he said. On Sunday, the Silver Star recipient was motivated by something a little easier: pride. After making history as the oldest participant in this year's version of the Marine Corps Marathon. Only 4 days from his 97th birthday, Harvey ran the 45th annual marathon through the heart of Fredericksburg in a specially crafted wheelchair he called a racing chariot. Sig Christensen has his story at the link in this episode's description. To keep our readers up to date on the path of COVID-19, the Express News has built a dashboard of interactive graphics showing the spread of the virus in the San Antonio area, in Texas as a whole, and across the United States. We've also created an interactive map of San Antonio for COVID-19 testing sites that don't require a doctor's referral. You can find a link to the dashboard and the interactive map in this episode's description. Also, be sure to check out other Express News podcasts such as Puro Politics, In Depth, and the Express News editorial board. You can find links to those podcasts in this episode's description. Next up are your need-to-know headlines. You can find all of these headlines and more inside your Express News subscription. The city-funded early childhood education program, Pre-K4SA, closed its East Education Center on Sunday after 4 staff members and 1 student tested positive for the coronavirus. The school made the announcement as San Antonio reported 140 new coronavirus cases. Posing with a naked woman partially covered with sushi is like a Spurs dancer at a Topgolf, Fire Chief Charles Hood said in his defense of a photo obtained by the Express News last week. Mayor Ron Nirenberg said the scene betrays the values of San Antonio. Residents in traditionally conservative 78209 have raised more than $1 million for President Donald Trump, but energized Democrats and disaffected Republicans are turning the area into a political battleground for the November 3rd election. Friday was the deadline to request a mail-in ballot, a voting option that more than 100,000 Bexar County voters decided to use this year. The Bexar County Elections Office had already received 65,170 ballots back. Governor Greg Abbott's controversial order to limit Texas County to 1 mail ballot drop-off site was allowed to remain in effect by the Texas Supreme Court this weekend. The number of travelers passing through San Antonio International Airport has increased slightly each month since it hit rock bottom in April, but the passenger count in September was still down 2/3 from a year earlier, according to airport statistics. Republican Gabriel Lara and Democrat Rebecca Clay Flores are squaring off for the Bexar County Precinct 1 County Commissioner seat in the November 3rd general election. We have what you need to know about the race in our 2020 Voters Guide. 4 candidates, 2 of them uncontested incumbents, are seeking seats on the Edgewood Independent School District's Board of Trustees on November 3rd, the district's first board election since transitioning from a state-appointed board of managers in the spring. The Bank of San Antonio completed its merger this week with 2 affiliated banks that will put the 3 under a single charter, the Texas Hill Country Bank and the Bank of Austin. On President Donald Trump's rhetoric on Joe Biden's as an organized crime family, columnist Gilbert Garcia writes, quote, "It's been a fascinating line of attack, given that if you Google the words nepotism, you'll quickly stumble upon photos of Trump's adult children." The city of San Antonio must reset and rewind, says columnist Elaine Ayala, adding, "Its lack of transparency and accountability on the Alamo Plaza project, as well as its leadership failures, require courage and a change to move forward." Against all odds, the NBA achieved perfection. But that won't be the goal next time, writes columnist Mike Finger, about reports that the NBA might begin the 2021 season in December. This week in history, on October 29, 1929, the Express Publishing Company's building opened with guests from across the country. It was also the day the stock market crashed, but it survived the Great Depression and is still home to the San Antonio Express News. The formal opening Tuesday of the Express Publishing Company's new and imposing edifice at Avenue E and 3rd Street, used exclusively as the home of the San Antonio Evening News and San Antonio Express, proved the signal for thousands of persons to get their first glimpse of the workings of the most modern and impressive newspaper publishing plant in the country. Joey Guzman understands that some ghost stories never die, especially the ones so close to home. After all, he owns Loma China Cemetery, better known as the Chinese Graveyard, a private Southside cemetery said to be haunted by a towering Asian woman who lost her love. The spirit and her surroundings may not be as famous as the storied ghost tracks, the Donkey Lady, or other kukuis of San Antonio lore, but the legend of the Chinese Graveyard still has some life in it. Renee Guzman tells the story at expressnews.com. Roadrunners running back Sincere McCormick carried the ball a program record 37 times Saturday against Louisiana Tech, tallying 165 yards and 3 touchdowns to help a struggling offense get on track in a comeback win. If the Spurs decide to go defense in the first draft, Auburn's Isaac Okoro could be the pick. Wide receiver Joshua Moore sparked Texas's win over Baylor, ending a 2-game skid. When you don't have a knife sharpener, Paul Stevens has what you can do in a pinch at expressnews.com. The San Antonio Parks and Recreation Department has a fun way to create a fairy tale world filled with castles and gnome homes built from recyclables. And that's all for today. This was your Express Briefing for Monday, October 26th. My name is Luis Vasquez. Please consider becoming an Express News subscriber to get in-depth coverage on all the stories you heard today. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast inside of your Apple Podcasts app, as it really helps the show. Have a wonderful week, everyone.